Hello and welcome to this video related to vehicle finance for students in Essential Math 40S. In this video, we're going to be looking at the pros and cons of leasing a vehicle as opposed to buying it. When you're leasing is like renting in that you'll pay a monthly payment or a bi-weekly payment and basically borrow the use of a car. I'm going to talk about leasing cars specifically. But unlike rental, when you rent a car, you can take it back at any time and then stop paying. A lease is a longer term agreement where you agree to continue to pay on the lease and keep the car for a set amount of time. Common leases could be 6 months, a year, 2 years, up to 5 years. And when you sign a lease, you're basically saying you will continue to pay the monthly payment for that lease until the lease is up. At the end of the lease, you bring the vehicle back. Okay. If the vehicle's in good condition, you don't pay anything extra. You just bring the vehicle back, but you don't own the vehicle. You give it back, the dealership takes it back, and then they would sell it as a used car to somebody else. If you've ever leased a cell phone, if you've ever had an agreement, a 2 or 3 year agreement where you get a free cell phone when you sign up for a cell phone contract, it's the same idea. You're not allowed to stop paying into the cell phone contract a year in. You have to continue to pay till the end. Same thing with the lease of a vehicle. The benefits of leasing is that you get a new car every few years, depending on how long you're leasing for. If you're leasing every 6 months, you get a new car every 6 months. This can feel good because it's nice to drive in a new car, and new cars smell good, and it's fun to be seen in a new car. But in the long run, that can get very expensive because you're essentially paying money for just the use of the car. You pay a lot of money over years and years and years, and you have nothing, you have no asset to show for it at the end. For some people, this is not a concern. A doctor I know leases his car every 2 years because he wants a new car every 2 years, and he's not concerned about the money in the long run. So that's a definite pro if you like driving a new car. Sometimes, depending on the dealership, they include regular maintenance, so you don't have to pay for oil changes or any of that type of maintenance on your car. Sometimes it's included, and that just depends on where you're going, and that's something you should ask about before you lease a car so you know what you're getting into. If regular maintenance is not included, you have to do the regular maintenance and pay for it yourself at the times that they give you. The vehicle, since it's new, will be under warranty, so any major repairs will be covered for sure. So if your engine falls out or your transmission breaks, something major happens to the car, they will just take the car in and replace that, and it won't cost you anything other than the inconvenience of not having that car for that period of time. And if you're paying monthly payments, it could be bi-weekly. We'll just focus on monthly payments for this video. Your monthly payment would be cheaper than buying the car outright in most cases. Because you're not paying to purchase the car from the dealership, the price to lease is usually a little bit lower. They tend to use the lease price on commercials for cars because of this. It actually appears cheaper to have the car than it really is, right? They don't put the buy price up there because then the amount of money looks more than all the other advertised cars. So if you can't afford to buy a car, but you really need a car, leasing might be an option because of the lower monthly payment. The cons or drawbacks of leasing, there's a few of them. After all those monthly payments, let's say you lease a car for 3 years, that's 36 monthly payments, you own nothing at the end. So you give the car back and you're done. So that amount of money was spent just for the use of the car. This happens in other places in life as well. When you pay to go to a movie, you don't get your money back at the end of the movie either. So some people wouldn't call this a con. They'd say you're paying for the ability to drive around in a new car. But from a purely financial standpoint, right, it's a con. If you lease and then buy a vehicle, it's usually more expensive than if you just buy it in the first place. When you bring the car back when the lease is over, the dealership will sell you the car for what they call the residual value of the car. We look at that, the residual value, and some of the calculations of this in another video. That video is linked on the same page as this video if you want to go to that and see some calculations later. But if you lease and then buy the car, it's going to cost you more than had you just bought the car from the beginning. Even though buying it from the beginning would give you higher monthly payments, in the long run you'd pay less. Okay? The other problem with leasing is dealers can put limitations on things such as total kilometers driven. They might tell you you can only drive 15,000 kilometers in a year, and where you can drive the vehicle. There are some leases where they say you may not take the vehicle outside of Canada, so you can't, for example, go for a road trip to Grand Forks in your vehicle because you'd be going outside of Canada. So both of those can become problems if you want to take the car outside the country, or you want to go on a couple of long road trips. All of a sudden you're running out of kilometers in a year. And what that leads into is this last point. When you bring the car back, whether you're going to buy it or not, if there's anything wrong with the car, and by anything wrong with the car I mean you drove too many kilometers, or if you have some dings and dents that aren't considered normal wear and tear, or if there's anything wrong with the interior of the car, you have to pay to have all of that stuff fixed, or you have to pay for the extra kilometers you drove before you can give the car back. How a lot of dealerships get you is if you have problems like that with the car, they tell you you can pay, let's say, $6,000 to fix the problem with the car just to return it, or you could purchase the car for $15,000 outright. This leads a lot of people to just purchase the car so that they're not paying money to fix the car and not get to keep the car. So you have to really watch out for that. If you're leasing a car, it's like borrowing a really good friend's car. You don't want to bring it back with any damage, with any problems, and you don't want to drive it further than how far they told you you could drive it. Okay, so all those things can contribute to some of the headaches in leasing a vehicle. I hope this clears up leasing a little bit, and thanks for watching the video.